This will be part 2 of our what I believe will end up being a 4-part series on task management and time matters. Today we're going to work on a system called the Time Matters Delegation System. It's a system that I first devised back in 1999, if my memory serves me. And I know that my company has used it ever since, and I know that hundreds of our users have, user firms have used the delegation system. Before I get started, let me just tell you there's a white paper. I indicated last time we were together in an email to you all. I told you there's a white paper you can download on this, and we're going to use that as our guide through today. If you were to go out to our website, which is www.otb-consulting.com, and then under the resources and then our downloads, then you have down here under white papers, we've got here task delegation. Right here is the document, and you can download that now or later. Like I said, we'll go through it, and then this video will be available to you online for your review. In fact, you can look at our website in the next couple of days. We'll have last session and this session online for your reference. So let's talk a little bit about delegation and what it means and why we do it and why we have it. One of the things that I found when I practiced law and that I have found working with attorneys is that it's difficult to track what work you have assigned out to people. In other words, I can remember on occasion where a partner, when I was a young associate, might ask me to do something, and basically I would either do it or not do it, but they weren't keeping track of it. And I can remember very embarrassingly being asked to do something at one point. I kind of forgot about it. The partner forgot about it, and all of a sudden they needed it and it wasn't done. The idea behind this is that task management is a two-way street, meaning that the person who is going to assign a task also has to have a way to stay on top of it to make sure that the task gets done. In other words, it's not really, it's one thing to say to somebody, please do this, and that's great, and then you rely on them or hope they get this done. But it's a better thing to say, hey, I want you to do this, but then have a method that allows you to follow up with them to make sure that it did get done. And so when we look at task delegation, the idea is that there is someone who delegates the task. We call that the delegator, and someone to whom the task is assigned. We call that the delegatee, for lack of better terms. And so I'm going to show you a quick sample of how the system works, and then we're going to roll back and spend the rest of this lunch and learn walking through how the components all come together. Again, the point here is if I go to my to-do list, we've got 2 tabs, delegate by me and delegate to me, and they're both empty right now. Delegate by me will show those tasks that I have delegated to other people. In other words, when I'm the delegator, delegated to me are the tasks that other people have asked me to complete. And the idea behind this is, in the demo I'm going to do here, I'm going to have to delegate a task to myself so that you can see it both ways. Obviously, you don't do that, but I have to in this instance. I'm logged in as as staff WRA. You can see that down there. So I'm going to add a delegated task. I'm going to click on the green plus button here on the to-do list, and a to-do form comes up, and I'm going to put down 1 priority, and I'm going to put DELE for the code. In the description, I'm going to say this is a test delegated to do. And the staff I'm going to delegate to is WRA. Now remember, I'm delegating to myself. In the case reference here, we'll put this in the Andy Aaron case. And then I'm going to come down here and say the task description is, please do this test task. I come over here and I say, who is this delegated by? Well, I'm going to put my initials there. And this is a lookup to the staff lookup, and I'll choose WRA. And then it says, what's the current status? I'm going to say it's not scheduled yet. There are no details. The date due is going to be, say, on the 15th. And I can always come in right here and click on date due and use this to select my date. We'll say we want to do on Monday the 17th. And again, I'll explain how all this comes together in a few minutes. Hang on one second. So my apologies on that. So I will come here on, again, I'll show you how all this comes together a little bit later. But for now, if I'm delegating this to WRA, I fill all this out. But watch what happens when I hit save and close. When I hit save and close, it's added right here. But in a second, the Time Matters Messenger pops up. Now, this is going to pop up on the desk of the person to whom I delegated the task. And I click on New Delegated To Do has been added. Okay, so the person who I delegate it to gets a message very quickly letting them know it's been added. They can look at it very quickly, and then as we always should with the messenger, we will then delete it. Now, if I'm a person to whom things are delegated mostly, I have delegated to me, and here's the task right there that's been delegated to me. And again, remember, this normally isn't, me delegating to myself. I just want to make sure everybody understands that, but it's the only way I can demo it. So I come over here and I look at delegated to me. I can sort by priority, by description, by case reference, by who it is that delegated to me, things like that. All right, and I can get to work on it. Well, what do I do when I want to get to work on it? I double click on it. I come over here and say, okay, it's scheduled, or it's in progress, or we're waiting on someone else. I've deferred it, or it's been completed. Let's say that's in progress. Okay. I've got a due date of the 17th. I'm going to put down here that I started today on the 12th, and I can start taking notes over here or whatever. I start doing the task that needs to be done. I hit save and close. Now I've got my notes popping up right here, things like that. And let's say 2 or 3 days from now, I finally get this done. So I come in, and when I want to have it done, meanwhile, by the way, over here, if I want to look and see what I've delegated, I can see the delegated task right here, see the notes that have been added. I can see that it's in progress, that it started on the 12th. But if I'm the person that says it's done, I double-click on it, and I say done. Now, notice right now that current status is in progress and completed is blank. When I simply mark it done and hit save and close, it drops off my list. In other words, it was delegated to me. If I mark it done, I want it off my list. But if it disappeared off everybody's list, we would never know when things got done or not. So if I'm over here and it says delegated by me, notice that it's stricken through. And that's an indication that the person to whom I delegated the task thinks they're done. And what I can do is come in on there and look at it. Okay, they made some notes. They say it's been completed. Notice that the current status has been changed to completed, and today's date, when I marked it completed, got filled in automatically. But I can look at it, and I can come down and I can see. I can go look at the notes. I can look at documents. I can look at a variety of things here associated with this particular to-do to make sure that it is in fact done. If I think it's not done yet, I simply mark it not done. Notice it's completed on 12/12. When I mark it undone, in essence, and hit save and close, first of all, notice the strike through went away. And second, you'll notice that a message popped up on the person to whom I delegated the task saying, oh, the to-do is not done yet. It's been reopened for further work. And basically, if we look at that, you'll see that now it's back to in progress, and the completed date is not filled in. And I probably will put some notes on here as to why it still needs work and things like that. But let's say they do the work I need to do. They mark it done. It drops off their list now. It's back over on my list. I need to make it go away. Well, now I look around, it's been done. I can't click on done, that's already clicked. You'll notice there's a confirmed done down here by me, and when I click on it, it drops off my list. And so very quickly, I think it's effective when I train on this to show you how the system works to begin with. And now I can follow up with you and kind of explain how the whole system works and how to set it up. But the idea is to be able to delegate to people and then be able to follow up on them. If I went into My Time Matters right now and clicked on Delegated by Me, there'd be about a dozen items on there. And I could sort by priority, by the case reference. I could sort by the person to whom I delegated it, and then meet with them and go over their tasks and figure out where they are, what's going on, and try to work with them to get it all done. So what I'm going to do here is now break down how the system works and how it's set up. The first thing you need to do and you need to know is that we need some classification codes. So I'm going to go to File, Setup, Codes, Classification Codes. And under To Do, we've got a delegation code right here. Delegate, delegated, delegated. Pretty straightforward. So we need a To Do delegated code. We also need to have a, didn't mean to close that, we need to have a code under the phone record called delegate. And you'll see why I'm doing this in a few minutes, okay? So there's delegated phone record, and you'll see why I'm going to do that in a couple seconds. So the first thing we need are two classification codes. The second thing we need to do then is set up our form style. Now, form styles are basically customized versions of data import or data entry screens. And you go to Setup, Templates, Form Style to add these. And if I go to Do and click on the delegated form style, this is what it looks like. And let's review this. And our documentation tells you how to change this and everything, but basically it's got a description of delegated. Okay, you got date, priority, code, and we've made code required. Description, staff, we've made staff required. If I go customize the field, you'll see that it's required. Okay. We have client and matter reference fields here. These are the regarding lines. Now, the key thing on this is by default in your Time Matters setup, okay, if you were to go to this field over here and right-click and say, I want to customize the field, this is case reference or matter reference, depending how you have it set up. But when you go here, okay, the key here is this. If I go to set field links and field matching, you're going to find that there's some fields over here that are automatically getting matched under the Due To and the Due To location. And it's even worse over here on the customized field for the client or the contact name. You're going to see that the address, Due To location, is all filled in there. Okay, I don't have it right now, but it would look like something like this. It would look something along these lines right here. Bear with me for a second. I'll kind of show you what it's going to look like on yours. So right out of the box, Time Matters looks something like this. Okay, and the problem is you've got to get rid of all that, because otherwise it'll put information over. It'll copy information over the fields we're going to have set up over here. And so you're going to want to come in and leave client there, obviously, but you're going to want to get rid of that. You just simply double-click it to unmatch all of this information right here. Okay? And so right out of the box, you need to make sure you clear the client and the case reference fields on the delegated form style to get rid of those links. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to make the form style look like this. Well, how do you do that? Well, the first thing you need to do is set it up right. Now, by default, let me show you something here. Let me get out of delegated for a second. The default To Do form style has an area here, an area here. In fact, let me do it this way. Most form style, most To Do form styles have 6 areas. Area 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This is area 1 up here. It has these 6 boxes, and each box has 9 fields. Okay? And so you can configure form styles, though, to have different setup. Instead of showing 6 areas like this is, I can come into my delegation, and you'll see that I've got an area here, and then a big area down here. Well, how do you do that? Well, if you right-click anywhere, one of your options is to customize the area. And this brings you to a customized area box, and you'll see that I've got the setup where I've got 2 areas and then a big area. If I go to Set Alternate Layout, I can choose the different ways that I want this set up. Okay? By default, it's always going to be this right here. Okay? In your case, for the delegation, I want to change it to this right here that has 2 areas on the top and then a big area below it. Okay? And that's what I have right here. So you're going to want to set that up. Then what you're going to want to do is when you have that area up there is you want to click on this first area. You can click on each area and then kind of make adjustments here. This is what we call area 2. We want to call it task description, and we want to make it the memo area. Then we want to make this the delegation information area, and we're going to make it an 8-field area. And then the 8 fields are going to be these fields right here that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Below here, for reasons that I'll talk to you about at the end of our session today, this is going to show a list of related phone records. Okay, you may or may not choose to use this part of it, and that's okay. All right, but for now, know that that's that. But the 2 important field areas are these areas right here: the memo that shows the description and the delegation information that shows up over here. Okay, now with regard to the delegation information that shows over here, we want to get it set up so that it looks like this information right here. So let's review these fields. The first one is who is it delegated by. This is going to be a text field, and you'll note that we have it audited and required. It's a text field, and we've made it all caps because we're going to put something in there like ABC or WRA, whatever the staff initials are for the person that is delegating the task. Now, we also are going to make it under field lookup items options. We make it a lookup from a record, and that record is from the staff list. What that means is that if someone wants to click on this button over here to do a lookup, it'll pop up the staff list, and you can select from that. Okay, and you need to do that. That's vitally important for the way the messaging system integrates with this. All right. So the next field is current status. Well, this is a lookup field, okay, and we're auditing it. We're making it required, and then it's a text field. We're using what's called specify field entry choices. What that means is give me a drop-down list. And when you do drop-down lists, there's 2 ways to do it. If you click on Edit Entry Choices, one way to do it is to use a lookup file that is outside of Time Matters. Okay? And that lookup file is kept in what's called the file locations under a folder called lookup. If I come over here, I can go out to where we've got our lookup folders, and there's the folder lookup right there. There's a list of text files right here, one of which is OTB delegation. And it's just a file that says not scheduled, scheduled but not started, in progress, waiting on someone else with details, deferred with details, and completed. And a text file like this needs to have a blank space at the top and then no blank lines down at the bottom. Now that's one way to do it. And you'll notice that we're pointing at lookup file OTB delegation.txt. Another way to do it is to say the following list. Then you start building the list right here. That is not started. Add. Waiting on someone else. Okay, etc. And you'd go through that, and you can set that up. You can move the order of these up and down. Okay, there's no right or wrong on how to do this. Basically, we typically use and recommend lookup file methodology, because then you can. It's easier to modify the text files out there than it is to actually go into the field and update the field. Also, oftentimes lookups use the same information over and over again. Instead of having to repeat it every time you need to do it, you just refer to the file. So OTB delegation.text contains the current status information. The next field is details. The idea behind this is if the current status is something like I'm waiting on someone else, you would put down in the details field who are you waiting on, or if the task has been deferred, why. So it just gives you a little place to put details as it relates to current status. Okay, that way it doesn't have to be stuffed in over there under the memo where it might be put in with some other notes and things like that. So details is just a text field. It's audited, but it's not required, and there's nothing to it. It's just a basic, straightforward text field. Then we have a series of dates. Date due, date assigned, date started, and date completed. Date due is just a simple date field that's audited. We're not requiring it, and we're not going to fill it in as the record gets added. Date assigned is audited, and we use this checkbox right here that says automatically completed on add. In other words, when we add a delegated task, that field will automatically have the date that it comes in, so it just saves a little bit of time. Okay, started is a field that is audited but not required, and it's not automatically completed. That's going to be filled in when a person starts the task. And then completed is the date that's completed. Now, let me deviate from a second from showing the technicalities of how this sets up, and let me explain something to you about this. Delegated tasks are designed more for things that are longer term. In other words, if you want someone to just run out and get a sandwich for you, you don't give them a delegated task, with the due date, and then they got to say, yeah, I'm started, and things like that. If it's a short, quick thing, okay, you can give them a to-do, or you can add a to-do to their to-do list, or you message them or something like that. These are designed for things that need to get done that would tend to take a little bit longer. Okay, that would take a couple days, or maybe there's some research that needs to be done, or some things like that, such that it's a longer process during which you're going to want to follow up on it and make sure it's getting done. Okay, that's why when we put date due, some people use that, some people don't. Depends on whether it's just an open-ended project or whether there's a very specific date by which it needs to be done. Assigned gets filled in automatically. Started is completed by the person that's doing the task. And completed also gets filled in automatically. It gets filled in automatically when someone clicks on the done checkbox. And then finally, confirm done down here, okay, is a checkbox shown on the right. It's audited, and we use that for the person who delegates. That's how they turn it off. Now let me point a couple things out at just kind of stylistic issues for those of you who are going to do your own form styles and things like that. First of all, when we use checkboxes, well, let me back up. You'll notice that the first 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the first 4 lines just have one field on it. The 5th and 6th line can have 2 or 3, and the 6th one can have 2. And so when I look at this, okay, we like to put things like dates that are short, and we like to put check boxes to the right on here so that you can use on the right, it allows you to have it says show label on the right. It gives you a longer label than if you put it on the left. So that's just some stylistic things that we've adopted over the years with regard to how we do this. In any event, once you get all those fields set up, and our documentation lays out exactly how that's to be done, okay, then the core of the system that we're talking about is completed. Now, again, I'm going to talk to you later about the delegated phone and things like that. But for the time being, we've got the user fields all set up and the areas set up, and we now have your delegation system not totally ready to be used, but we're getting there. Okay? So we've got the fields, we've got that thing done. The next thing you need to do is have the delegated tabs. All right? Now, the good thing about these is when we first did this system way back in 13 years ago or whatever, we were at a disadvantage. Time Matters didn't have some functionality that it has today, and so we had to put delegate by me and delegate to me at the user level, and we're able now to put them at the program level. And what I mean by that is, if I look at delegate by me, this is a program level quick tab. So if I go to File, Setup, General Program Level, and then I go to my lists, and I go to to-dos, and I say Set List Options, and I go to Quick Tabs, here's the delegate by me and the delegate to me. Okay? Now, if I double-click on delegate by me, okay, it's a real simple tab here set up. The key is the filter and the sort. So this is delegated by me. And if I go to the advanced search for this, the advanced search for delegated says the code starts with DELE, and the delegate by field is equal to staff. And it's the staff token right here that lets us do this on a program level basis. See, when Time Matters sees a filter like this that says and delegated by is equal to staff, it reaches down here, okay, to the person that you're logged in as, and it grabs the staff value of WRA and it stuffs it in that. So for me, when I run this filter, it'd be the same thing as staff being WRA. But every different user, when they run this filter, gets a different result because staff is different for everybody. Really, it was a key, huge improvement in Time Matters. Came out in Time Matters 4 or 5 and just really, really helped us. Then we also want to make sure, remember, this is delegated by me. We also want to say, and confirmed done is not equal to yes. In other words, we haven't confirmed it done yet. So on the delegated by me, we're going to see to-do records where the code starts with delegation, where the delegate by field has my initials, and confirmed done is not equal to yes. Okay? Again, this is all in the documentation, but I hope that makes sense to you. It's pretty straightforward. The delegate to me, in other words, these are tasks that have been given to me. Okay? The search here is similar. It's staff has staff. So once again, instead of delegate by field, this is the staff field. So every record has a staff field in the upper right-hand corner. So when we assign or delegate a task to do to somebody, the person's initials are in the staff field. So this is the staff field has staff, my initials, WRA, or whoever it is that's looking at this, their initials get put in there. Done is not equal to yes. In other words, it's not done yet. And code starts with DELE. Okay? So that will then show all of the delegated tasks or to-dos that aren't done yet that have my initials in the staff field. Real simple search. That staff, like I said, is key that allows us to do this at a program level. So what that means is when I click on Delegate by Me, delegate to me, okay, the search we get is what we just saw, and what Time Matters does in effect is puts WRA right there because that's who I'm logged in as, and it would put other people's initials in depending on who it is that's running the tab. Okay, so that'll then set up your 2 quick tabs right there. Again, the documentation lays all that out on how it's done and things of that sort. The final thing that you probably need to do to make this easier is to set up auto entry forms. For those of you who are BKexpress users that we've trained over the years, that's what we call the sunshine button, and it's one of the best features in Time Matters that allows you to basically automatically complete document or data entry forms with relevant information. And so I'm going to show you, and I'm a huge user of the delegation system, and I'm a firm believer in using the auto entry forms to save time. So I'm going to go to File, Setup, Templates, Auto Entry Form. And I'm going to go over here to To-Do, and I've got actors, client inquiry, post-petition, pre-petition. I'm going to add a folder. I'm going to call it Delegation. And I already have a couple delegation auto entry forms down here. I'm going to drag those up under the folder. And I'm going to look at this first one. It says delegated task. So this is TM to CML. Okay? And so this would say that it's delegated by TM, staff to CML. It puts the delegated code in there, and it sets it to not scheduled. And what I do in my office is I have a delegated taxi, TM delegates to LKF. My initials are TLR, and I've got about 11 or 12 of these. TLR delegates to RSM, TLR delegates to CLR, etc. right down the line. All the people to whom I might delegate tasks. And this is one of the times where you would do these at the user level, not necessarily the program level, because only you really care about your delegation tabs or your delegation auto entry forms. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to add an auto entry form that delegates from me, WRA, to WRA, because that's what we have to do to make this work. So to add an auto entry form, I click on the green plus button, and I put in the description, delegate WRA to WRA. No priority, code is delegate. Staff is going to be, I'm delegating to WRA from WRA. It's not scheduled yet. And I'll delete that date because that'll fill in. So that's all we really need to do right there. It's easy to set up. I hit save and close, and there's my delegated WRA to WRA. Obviously, I'd make all the naming consistent here. And I hit close. Well, how does that help me? Well, when I click on the Add button to add a record, here's what we call the sunshine button, auto entry form. And when I click on it, you'll see my delegated WRA to WRA. And right now it's blank. But when I double click on that, it fills in delegated WRA, WRA not scheduled in today's date. And so when I'm delegating tasks, it's nice because then all I have to do is put in the priority of 1, please get the deposition scheduled for John James. Do this in the Aaron case. Put some notes down here. My schedule looks good for the first week of January, or whatever it would be. Okay? So remember, I'm delegating to WRA. I put all this information in here. I hit save and close. Over on his computer, the messenger just popped up. New delegated to do has been added. Please get the deposition scheduled for John James. My schedule looks good for the first week of January. Doesn't need to keep looking at it and get rid of those. Okay? So that's what I'm saying delegated by me right here. Over at WRA's computer, he sees delegated to me. He just got the message. He sees delegated to me. He can tell who is delegated by, what's the current status. Okay, he can look at the description, memo, things of that sort, and start to get to work. The minute he goes to work, he comes over here and says, okay, it's in progress. I didn't put a due date on there, but he might go ahead and put I started it today. Starts taking notes. Several days might go by. He's recording notes, etc. When he's done, he comes on there and says, I'm done. I'm finished it. Notice it's going to drop off his list. But over on delegated by me, it shows stricken through like I showed earlier. When I double click on that, okay, I look it over. If it's not done, I mark it not done, and it'll send a message back to him saying, you need to get this completed. If it is done, I simply hit confirm done, and you'll see that when I hit save and close, it drops off my list. Now, don't remember, it'll still be on the list. Okay, if I go to to-dos down here, 1212, this is one I did earlier. There's please get the deposition scheduled for John James. Okay, so it's definitely done. All right, so it remains on the to-do list. It just no longer appears on the delegated by and the delegated to tabs. Now, one piece that I kind of skipped over is how is it that it's doing some of these things as far as the messages getting sent and things like that. Well, we have a couple triggers that we use. File, setup, template, triggers. And before I go into this, one of the things I've always used the delegation for about 10 years, from 1999, about 11 years, I guess, 1999 until about 2010, I did all of Time Matters and LexisNexis's training of consultants and of end users that they sponsored here in Cary, North Carolina. And I trained thousands, if not tens of thousands, of Time Matters users during that time period. And one of the things I loved about the delegation system is it's a great way to learn more about Time Matters because it requires codes, form styles, quick tabs, advanced searches, and now we're looking at triggers and auto entry forms. So it requires the use of the major components that one uses in Time Matters. So it's actually a really good exercise to set it up because I think it gets you to know Time Matters better. Okay? In any event, if I go to the to-do list, you'll notice under delegation I've got if a delegated to-do is added, message the delegatee. This is a real simple trigger that says it fires when a to-do record is added, where the code is delegated, and the action that it takes is to send a message to the staff. That's the person that we delegated it to, is in the staff field, and we say new delegated to-do has been added. Delegated to-do has been marked done. When a delegated to-do, we got the code right there, delegated, this is a to-do. When a delegated to-do has the done field changed to done, in other words, the done field gets checked, then it's going to do several things. Number one, it's going to change the completed field to a value of today. That's another token, much like the staff token, that puts in today's date. So the first thing it does is to change the completed field to today. The second thing it does is it blanks out the details field. So blank the details field. And the last thing it does is change current status to a new value of completed. So when you click on the done checkbox, so a delegated to do is marked as done, it changes those three fields. The final one kind of is a reverse of that. if I take a checkbox, a to-do that's been marked as done, and I mark it undone, okay, it does a couple things. Number one is it sends a message to the staff who thinks they're done saying, wait a minute, not done yet. Delegated to do is not done yet, reopen for further work. It also then blanks out the completed field because it's no longer completed, so we don't want that date in there. And it changes the current status to in progress, so it puts it back in progress. Okay, so I think if you play with these triggers, and again, they're well documented, I think if you play with those triggers, then it will be a great way for you to learn and see how triggers work as well. Now, I'm going to kind of wrap up, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. I want to wrap up with why we have the phone section up here. If I add this, and we put this delegation, okay, there's this list. This could be phone records right here. This part of the system grew out of a couple of my clients back in, I don't know, 2003, 2004, 2005, who were very frustrated that actually the staff was frustrated at the lawyers, because the lawyers would enter in their phone notes or their notes, and they would say, spoke with so-and-so today, did this, did that, did this, did that. And if that's all they were going to do on the phone note, well, that's fine, okay? But what they kept doing was, and this is very understandable, is at the end of typing in everything they just did, okay, so they're memorializing this phone conversation, they would stick this very last piece at the bottom and say, so, you know, Sally, the paralegal, based on all this I just typed, I need you to do this and this and this. And then they would message it. They would message the phone record to their paralegal. And it was driving the paralegals nuts, because they were getting these phone messages messaged to them as to-dos. And not only did they have a to-do list, now they had this massive phone message list over there they had to follow as well. And so what we did was we added a delegation code for phone notes. And let me just walk you through it, show you how it works. If I'm on a case, and I say Andy Aaron, and I add a phone record, I'll come over here and add a phone record, and I come down and I say this is going to be a delegated. Notice I marked a delegated phone record, and I say that spoke with opposing attorney Ray, depot, dates. And I come down here and I put blah, 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 whatever it may be right here, okay, and all that. Okay, so I get that done. And then if I want to add the delegated to follow up, oh, I can do it on, you know, January, you know, 13th or something like that. The idea here is I want to delegate to my paralegal, okay, to set the deposition on the 13th. I take the notes of everything that's on here, spoke to the opposing attorney, you know, we have agreed basically that we can do it on the January 13th, but I want to delegate this to my paralegal because they need to get the court reporter and things like that, okay? So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to copy this real quickly, just do a Control-C to copy the subject. And when I hit save and close on this, watch what happens. A to-do form pops up. It's already marked as delegated, okay? I have this set up. You really wouldn't have who it's going to. You would put that in now. You know, who that's going to go to is going to go to WRA because we're going to do it to ourselves. I'm going to paste spoke with attorney Ray depot dates in there, and then I'm going to come down here, and again, these two values would not be filled in. I accidentally did that. All right, you would fill in the staff and the delegate by, and you would paste in the description, and you'll notice down here that there's a listing of the phone record. And instead of me typing in again all that phone record says, I can just say, see phone record for details, set depots. And when I hit save and close, okay, it pops up over on the other person's system. They see a new delegated to do, and they go see phone record for details. Well, if I was going to make them jump all over the place looking for that phone record, that'd be a pain. But they don't have to, because if they come over here and go to to-dos and say delegated to me and look at this, it says see phone record, so they'll double click on it and then come right down here and double click on the phone record and pop the phone record up and see the details very easily. So the phone records are listed right here that are related to the particular to-do that the phone record that was used to create the delegated to-do is right there. And man, this just, a couple of my clients, real close friend of mine, Robert Fleming, who's been using Time Matters forever, he made his staff just happy as they could be, because no longer were they getting all these phone records shot at them. They're actually getting a delegated to-do, so they could use the delegated to-do system, but it had the phone record attached to it that the to-do came from. So that wraps it up. That's our delegated system. Okay, this video will be up that you guys can review. Our documentation walks you through it. Once it's set up, it's a real simple system to use, but it's very powerful to come in and say delegated by me and see the 5, 10, 15 items you have here and meet with various people in your office to run over, where are you on this? Where are you on that? And kind of work through your delegated list. So it's 12:50, perfect timing. I wanted to be done right around now. I'm going to unmute everyone. So if you are talking, many of you have speakers on phone and or on the computer. But I'm going to unmute everybody. And if you've got any questions, we can hear you now. Okay, so everybody's unmuted. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those questions. You may need to unmute your phone if you're muted and you're trying to ask a question, because I'm not hearing you. Hey, Chris, I can hear you're typing, so hang tight with me on that, but we'll wrap up, all right?
Okay. Can you hear me?
That's okay. All right, well, if there aren't any questions, we'll go ahead and start wrapping up and everything. The next session is going to be real interesting. We're going to, well, wait real quick. There was a question that just came up. Is the video online? It's not yet, but it will be. And I'm not sure where we're going to put it. Worst case scenario is under our resources. It'll be under here, under downloads or whatever. Even on our homepage, you might see that. Also on our new BKexpress website, it'll be out there on that website as well. So check both websites or either website, and you'll be able to see those. Now, our next session is our next session that we're going to have. We're going to talk about a couple different things. Number one, we're going to talk about what's called a CLIC system, which is a client question and complaint system, and it's kind of based off the delegation system. That's why we did delegation first. But it's a way to handle. It was something we innovated and put into our bankruptcy product, BKexpress. So BKexpress users really will want to see if they've forgotten how to use it or not using it effectively. But it's a way to handle a lot of questions that clients have, so you make sure that you get back to them within 24 hours to answer the question. The other thing we're going to cover, hang on real quickly and I'll tell you. The other thing we're going to do is I'm going to talk about email management. And in particular, there's a white paper out on our website that you can go to, again, under the resources out there. And basically, what we're going to talk about is email management, and it's a concept called rafting your email. And it's a way of getting rid of the huge inbox. Too many people use their inbox as a to-do list, as a task management tool. And it's not a very good one because it gets hundreds in there and you get overwhelmed. And much like we talked about with filing to-do bankruptcy or task bankruptcy last session, we're going to talk about using a rafting system, refer, act, file, throw away, to try to get an empty inbox for you so that you can use that. So we're going to cover those two things in the next session. And in the last session, Bob McNeil, my partner, is going to review a variety of ways that he uses to track phone calls and emails. So if you make a call to somebody, how do you remember to follow up with them? Or if you send an email to somebody, how do you remember to follow up on that email? So it's a very effective system that he's been using for some time, and I think you'll be glad to see that. So again, I'll ask for any additional questions if anybody has them. Otherwise, we'll wrap up and call it a day. Folks, I really appreciate your time. I hope that you got some value out of this. Start using the delegation system, and I think that you'll find that you'll become even more efficient. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.